This summer, for instance, I was 115% booked, and there was a big strain on my family life. So I upped I just thought like, okay, let's do my rate times 2. And somebody said yes, so I was like, okay.
This is Making Progress, and today is with me Douwe Wester. Welcome, Douwe.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Could you please tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do, Douwe?
Yeah, so I'm Douwe, almost 43, so I'm pretty seasoned, and I think best explained what I do is I've been working with startups, scale-ups, entrepreneurs for over a decade and a half. And at the moment, I help companies that already have a client base to find like 20% of the best customers and build their whole strategy and company around that specific customer. So if we can find similarities, we can find more of those customers, and maybe they're the best customers on like revenue, working together with them. So I help them analyze all that, build a strategy, build the creatives around that strategy, build a team, basically creating an architecture for the new phase of scaling, growing, or even for startups in the beginning.
All right, great. Thanks. So with regards to that, but also like your general entrepreneurial journey, right? So how do you set up your goals, like what you want to achieve, like this business or this angle that you're now taking? I think I've seen you doing on LinkedIn, right, for the past time for a couple of months now.
Mm-hmm.
This is also why I asked you, because I thought it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But something gave you that direction, maybe, right?
Yeah. So the motivation behind it, when I was like 8 years old, one of my uncles, he's this big business guy, and I always looked up to him. And I always had a sense of feeling, understanding anomalies, like things that shouldn't be there. And then I distinctly remember telling my mom that I wanted to help companies because my uncle had a lot of money and I knew what he did, and but they always stuck by me. And the other thing that I wanted to do is be an architect. And because I like drawing everything. So it converged into something that's called revenue architecture. So how do I make goals for myself is I architect it. So for my personal goals, for instance, I have this big Excel sheet with all these charts. How's my mental well-being? How is my weight? For instance, do I exercise? How does my body feel? How are my revenue goals? How is humor still a part of my life? Because sometimes our working life is pretty serious, so I like to have some humor in there. So how do I set goals?
Is it a daily habit tracking?
No, it's a weekly. So
Weekly.
Every Friday morning, I just write down and these are numbers 1 to 5 for every category.
Yeah.
And then I can see over time, and I track not rigorously, not disciplined enough to journal about all the things that I do, but the major things that are holding me back and the things that help me progress, I write down in that analysis sheet.
Yeah.
And so on a yearly basis, my major goals are like revenue based. So I want to have
business focused.
Yeah. So I need X amount of clients. Therefore, I need X amount of inbound. I need X amount of clients that need to convert, and I need existing clients to be X. So I have a revenue goal. So I've been growing. I restarted the thing that I'm doing like a couple of years ago, and been steadily growing like 40% every year.
Yeah.
So pretty happy about that. So this year it's going to be 40 again. hopefully. And
Yeah.
then,
So how do you do that? Because I assume you're a freelancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell me a bit about that? How you manage to do that?
so one, I have this clear motivation. I want to help as much entrepreneurs as possible. And as a self-employed revenue architect or fractional CMO, so I'm a chief marketing officer for multiple companies at the same time, meaning I'll help them build like their marketing structures and their programs and their revenue programs. So I can't handle more than like 3-4 clients at a time. So every year, if I have a goal to help 50 companies, I do like a Friday full day help out speed sessions. Everybody can book for free a slot, present a problem, and I'll help them. Gives me a great feeling, and then I know I can help as much entrepreneurs. So that's part of the goals that I have. So one, I want to have 50 companies that I help, approximately. Then I have a revenue goal. And how do I come up with a revenue goal? It's just I have some spare room in the week that I had last year. I'm not fully booked. I like that because now I can definitely work on some things like I like learning stuff, a lot of stuff, and I dive way too deep in all these small little things. So I need time for that. And the other thing is I can definitely do more. I can onboard more clients, meaning.
But eventually you will reach a cap at what you can handle, right? So is it like just increasing rates, or is it finding?
And then it's raising rate. Yeah. So this summer, for instance, I was 115% booked, and there was a big strain on my family life. Yeah. So I upped my. I just thought like, okay, let's do my rate ×2. Yeah. And somebody said yes. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because then also like what you do for customers, you can also apply to yourself. You need to start finding these type of customers that are comfortable with paying whatever you charge, basically. Yeah.
So traditionally, if you look at goals, when I work with other companies, and it's the same. Like for me, I do a better job at setting goals for my for my customers than I do for myself. But the traditional way is like, let's look at the mission, vision, and figure out, are we still aligned with the market? Is our vision but that should be an easy exercise, because if you've done that before, then you already have that maybe. And then comes like, okay, what goals do we derive from that? And I like to categorize them in 3 parts. It's like one is more a customer acquisition goal. Then you have a customer retention goal. So how do I keep customers with me? Yeah. And the last one is organization. So can I build an organization, or can I maintain an organization so that we can reach our goals? So that's where our architecture comes in. Because if you have goals and you have strategies and tactics, we can figure out, can we actually do this with the team? So I think both are really, really interesting. Like, what can I do with the team that I have? Or can I build a new team? So we just got funded, we can build a new team. So what kind of skills do we need? And this applies to yourself as well. So if you have goals, and you have a strategy to do that, do I actually have the skills? No. Okay, let's.
Yeah, this is what we typically hear, right? Yeah. Goals don't matter, systems do. Yeah. Like, what is your method of achieving your goals? Then the goals are just simply like a dot on the horizon. Yeah.
So when we are in a flow state, so I like process. So what I do personally is I'm ADHD as. So for me, to stay focused and stay in the process, that's the hardest part. So I have a lot of stuff outside of the process, that when I'm not in the process, that keeps reminding me to go into the process.
How do you mean?
So let's say you're easily distracted like me, and you're on your phone. So there's a really small time limit where something pops up on my phone that says, "Are you? Is this the best time to be on your phone?"
Oh, so
and then I was like, "Okay," and then I snap out of it, and I'll,
you've installed something that does that.
Yeah.
So after a minute or two, it just shows.
It's
you
like 5 minutes, yeah, and then and also it's like okay. I have a certain place in my house where I put my phone. Like I'll put it there so I can't reach it, so there's no distraction. Also, one thing that helps to achieve my goals is in the morning. I don't do any meetings in the morning because I'm fresh, I'm excited, I love what I do. I don't want anybody to bother me because I need to produce stuff or create like flowcharts or something. And I want to really concentrate. So everything that distracts me, I'll take out, and I have things in place that when I'm distracted, then I'll get back. And I think for any company, any person, that's really valuable.
So what is a typical strategy that you advise to implement at companies?
In general, for goals or
for goals, or like finding the right customer, because that's
Okay.
eventually what you do, right?
Yeah. So that's so the cool thing is let's call it a go-to-market strategy. In Dutch is like same wine, different bottle. We've been in the lean startup space or customer development, and but nowadays it's called go-to-market strategy. And basically, or in my idea, to come to a go-to-market strategy, you have like 11 steps. The first step is understanding your customers right now. So let's say you have an Excel sheet or a customer relation management tool, something like Salesforce or Pipedrive or something, and you just get a dump and put it in Excel or in Google Sheets, and just go through customers and try to cluster them based on revenue. How easy is it to work with them? If you're a software company, how easy was it to onboard them on the platform? How well is communication going? How many support tickets do you get? All these things taking in and understanding who those ideal 20% of the customers are. And then it's understanding your own pipeline. So what am I doing well? So when potential customers come in, what do I do? What are the conversion rates? If you look at it as a funnel, so people understand that you exist. They are interested. They show interest. They consider you as a person to help them. And then they convert into a customer. So if we figure out that those are steps, we can figure out how well you're doing on every step. And if you combine those two, we can figure out, okay, so these 20% customers, if I improve that specific
ratio,
then and we can build like a journey based on their buying behavior. We have an ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
And then we have a buyer's process. And if we have an ideal customer profile, we have an ideal problem to solve. And if we have an ideal problem to solve, we can create a value proposition. And if we have a value proposition and we know which channels these people, where they at. So for me, it's LinkedIn. Sometimes it's Twitter as well. I'm preparing something for YouTube because I can leverage video on LinkedIn and video on YouTube. And figuring out where are the customers or the potential customers, where are they? Then you can build like a content plan, a marketing plan. You can build, you can figure out what goals. You can figure out what team do I need. And if I know all of that, I can build a playbook. And a playbook is basically a systematic way to say, okay, we reach out to these customers in this way, like email or LinkedIn outreach or anything else. And when they show interest, we say this, and then we say this, and then we send email. And then when they come in, we follow up in this way, all these kind of things. And this is in total a go-to-market strategy.
Yeah.
I hope this is...
No, it makes a lot of sense. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I also work with startups and companies, and
Yeah.
I'm just curious about like churn. Like, how often is that overlooked? Because I have the feeling that is like one of those things that you want to identify, like which customers churn the most actively. But I have the feeling that everybody's overlooking it. They are always so focused on inbound, like
For
new
sure.
customers, and then. So how do you make this clear to
this
companies?
get me excited.
Yeah, no, but
like I hopped up, like yes,
because
let me
for
go
example,
into
we
this,
had
yeah.
this with I had this with a client, and they want to focus on new clients, just new clients.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have a massive leaky bucket.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you deal with this?
So, in general, if we're selling stuff, we're promising to solve a problem or to create impact. Let's call it impact. So, my solution, if my solution doesn't produce more revenue or a more sustainable way to grow the company, then my customer will churn or go away. So checking and really making sure that the customer experiences the impact of the thing that you sold, the thing that they came in and trying to get solved. If you don't have a process for that, then you don't know churn. So one of my customers, they actually have like 3% churn, which is really low. So 3% of the customers on a yearly basis leave. And they didn't know. So they thought it was way higher. And so for them, that's great. But imagine you have 20% of your customer going away every year. Then how much money should you spend on ads and trying to get in new customers to even have like break even number of clients?
Yeah.
It's so important. So how to do that? It is depending on your business model. So if you're a SaaS company, so you're software as a service, then your product is your major driver of new acquisitions, and you can do a lot in your product. But if you're, let's say, a designer, so if you're a designer, so what kind of system do you have to keep people coming in? So one idea is to just send them an email with your portfolio like every quarter. Have certain moments around Christmas or just give them something, not artsy, but something that also has value, something personal or something. So these things help keep you top of mind, and your product needs to be great. So if you're a designer, your designs need to be great and needs to be mindful of the goals of your customer, and all these small little processes really help in retaining those customers, because once they leave and they have a different designer, they're gonna.
Do you have any issues convincing entrepreneurs that they need to also identify which people churn? Because I don't think, is it actually, do you want to keep people that are going to churn, or do you just want to identify?
That's what the 20% is for.
Yeah.
So identifying the 20% is also identifying which customers we want to keep.
Yeah.
So let's say you have two customers and one of them has a lot of support tickets and needs a lot of TLC, and they need a lot of attention, and the other has a little bit less revenue and and doesn't need any support. Then I rather have like 4 of those than 3 of the other.
Yeah.
So understanding that specific thing will help you set up what metrics to look at, but also which clients to maybe offboard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Firing customers.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been firing customers for the last 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work out if there's not a good fit.
Yeah, not a good fit or not opportune. Because once you find, of course, your an ideal customer profile where you're like, okay, hey, actually, I can charge these people double.
Yeah.
Or they don't take up any support.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you still deal with people that do or want to pay less?
Yeah, it's general in life. Like, yeah.
Oh, but that's like a very luxurious position. So this is like basically what you try to help companies get to that position.
Yeah, exactly. So, and on top of that is if you haven't looked into niching down and really going deeper in specifics, what customer. So let's say you're a revenue architect. I can be a revenue architect for everybody. For self-employed people, for designers or developers, or for really big companies like Shell. I can do, it's like you can be both. If you haven't defined specifically which target segment. So let's say I'm a revenue architecture for Web3 companies in the B2B space that mostly leverage hardware. That's a really specific.
Yeah.
So then I can go on LinkedIn. I can find all those specific companies because maybe they're like 2,000. That's not a lot of companies. So then I can reach out to them, get to know them, have a specific strategy or tactic or something to get them interested and to get them in. And this works also for software companies, B2C, B2B.
All right, cool. So what's next for you? Because you mentioned just over coffee, you mentioned something also about startup sales cycles, and I thought it's also interesting maybe to briefly touch upon before we wrap up.
Yeah. So one of the things that keeps me up at night is where are we in an economic cycle? And this is really true. This is something I can't stop talking about it because I'm really passionate about understanding where we are. Why? Because I like to mitigate risk. So let's say you're so what it is?
Yeah, or is it the one thing that you can't architect?
So there's a lot of emotion, and economic cycles are emotional cycles. So, and to not have emotional damage. So why is this important for me? Because I have a couple of customers that are growing fast. So they're growing fast, and knowing when the full economy goes to shit helps them to either be more flexible in employing people. It's maybe have a little bit more cash. Maybe before the economic cycle tops out and ends, maybe go for that extra funding round.
Yeah, instead of a down round or no round.
So one of the cycles or economic models that I track is the 18.6 real estate cycle. What has nothing to do with startups, but it's directly correlated with all the financial markets. It's stocks, it's funds, it's private equity. And one of the cool things about that cycle, it's based on 200 years of data. And every 18.6 years, it does the same thing with a year and a half after or before. There's
Yeah.
There's not a specific standard deviation or a deviation, but let's say it's a year and a half before or after. So the last cycle top that we had was 2007, 2008, the big banking crisis. And you can go back 200 years, and it's based on 350 years of ground prices and real estate prices. And Phil Anderson correlated all these data points with the economic cycles. So it's 18.6 years, and then you have like up. And if you go up, then you have a slight top first after, let's say, 7-8 years. And in our case, this was the COVID crisis. We had it was big impact, but if you look at what happened afterwards,
Really short.
it was pretty short, pretty hectic, and everybody thought like, okay, this is gonna be terrible. And then the European banks and the Fed printed money, so the economy went ballistic. So everybody has a lot of money, or not everybody, but all of the houses are exploding, all assets are exploding. So where are we now? We're in the cycle in the last 6 months of the 18.6. So halfway through 2025, a year after or a year earlier, that's the end of one of the models that I track. And what happens then, you get 4 to 5 years of either the economy doesn't do anything, but mostly you get corrections. So imagine your house being worth 30% less. So you get a big correction. So why is this important for business? For self-employed people, it's interesting. So are you an interim professional? Then, yeah, is my industry...
Maybe get a contract somewhere.
Yeah. Is this anti-cyclical? So am I in government? No problem. So if the governments are your customers, then happy days. No problem. But our tech companies, then maybe funding dries out. So VCs won't spend a lot of money, or any other industry that is heavily correlated with like a recession or depression. Maybe it's good to have a little bit more money saved up.
Yeah. So, and are the companies that you work with, do you also advise them on this? And are they implementing anything?
Yeah. So we build scenarios.
Yeah.
So we have a good scenario, like so the economy stays the same, and there's not a lot of growth. Customer retention is normal. You have like hyper growth. So this could be one of the cycles that takes way longer. Then you get like an amazing like end of the economic bull run, and so this means we need to have multiple funding cycles. But the other is if we are in a recession, then contracts with employees will be shorter, let's say a year. We'll hire more freelancers. We'll have a bigger emergency fund. So we want to have more cash flow. So one of my clients, we went from 18 people working there, and we have now 7.6. So we already are so lean, and we're doing twice what we did before. So even though if we do half of the revenue, we can stay afloat. We can. So these are things you can take in consideration. Let's say you just got funded and you hire a bunch of people. What happens if your funding runs out? then it's done.
Yeah.
And if everybody's sitting on their hands, like VCs are sitting on their hands, waiting for better opportunities, not an inflated market where we're in right now.
Yeah.
Then, so why am I passionate? Because I'm selling my house personally.
Yeah.
I'm selling my house. I'm buying a somewhere remote where I can produce
Sure.
like vegetables and have all these kind of things set up, and have a bigger emergency fund and all these kind of things, because I'm working in the tech sector. So
Okay.
So even if it's a great economy and it goes on forever, then I'm still well situated, because I can help those customers. I can help them with scenarios. I can help them with planning. I can help them with revenue.
Is there like an what is the hedge? Like, so what if you have funds invested? Is there a hedge that you can do? That's common, or
Yeah, that's pretty. That's gonna be really specific on your situation. Can you?
no. So, yeah, I have some money invested.
Yeah.
But I can imagine if you are convinced that this is bound to happen,
Yeah.
that you don't want to leave it in an ETF or in a crypto or in gold or whatever, right? Or is gold a good hedge? Or
So from an investment perspective, I would be 40% in cash. So if people are invested in stocks, or people invested in crypto, maybe, then if you believe this is going to be amazing, but crypto hasn't seen a real recession. So it's going to be interesting what's going to happen. So a hedge, so cash is one thing. Gold could be another one. I would say having a house. So buying a house, for instance. So let's say you have a good house. Now buying a house that nobody wants, that you need to do some work in, that you then have some extra value in. If you have the stomach for these kind of things, it's a better. Then you get like 20% discount on the house, because the housing market is really ridiculous. And if you have a house that nobody wants, you get a little bit of discount, and that's a good hedge for people that don't have a lot of investments. If you have an investments, I would gradually just take out the money.
Take out a bit more cash position.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Also, mostly for explaining why it's important for businesses, because that's the main part. We're through our time, but I want to thank you a lot for dropping by and sharing your story about going to market with us, and also the financial cycles. Thank you so much, Douwe.
No, thank you.
Yes. Ja, ik zit even te denken of ik nou nog een vraag gemist heb, maar volgens mij hebben ze